Hello YouTube, this is Double Face Workshop. So in today's episode, we're going to kind of, as per usual, stretch a little bit out of the norm. I'm not actually going to be woodworking today. We have a event coming up that kind of sells a lot of different little numerous wares that we make, me and my wife. And we needed a small display rack. So I had a shop for a while on Main Street in our local town, and I have a large metal spindle rack, but it's kind of cumbersome to fit in the vehicle, takes up a lot of space, and it displays better in a store than it does underneath a canopy. So we're going to be selling wares in a parking lot with a couple other vendors tomorrow. And kind of short notice, needed to build something. So what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be kind of doing basically a Dollar Tree find. So everything here I purchased at Dollar Tree, except for these little guys. These are the calibration dragons that we make with our 3D printers to calibrate for what type of filament we're using, as well as it lets us know if our bed's level, and it gives us a lot of good indications, and we're left with a cool keychain at the end. So instead of throwing these away each time we have to recalibrate the machine, we keep them, turn them into a keychain, and then we sell them for $2. So it's not a huge amount of profit, but it basically turns something that is more or less kind of a throwaway use item and turns it into a functioning item for someone else's enjoyment. So kind of helps keep you from just creating a whole bunch of garbage while 3D printing, which can happen. So this is something that we kind of came up with, and a lot of other people in the industry for 3D printing in general have come up with, to kind of have a use for an item that you have to do just to calibrate your machine. So instead of wasting something, throwing it away, like little cubes and stuff you can print, and those are okay, but they're not usable, resellable, and it just has your X, Y, and Z marked on it. So this is something that's a little bit more fun and enjoyable, as well as a few other keychains that are just purely a keychain that we will be selling as well. So let's get to making ourselves a little stand-up collapsible rack for on the go. Alright, so I have two $3 collapsible baskets. Now they offer kind of a dollar and more aisle. So these are actually $3 a piece. They collapse. So I have two of those. And these are the main centerpiece, which is a large square shaped pegboard. And that's actually the title of it too, by their JOT line, or GOT. I have 8 of these, and I kind of had a little mix up. So we had already purchased 3 sets of pegboard, little pegboard hooks that is. And I messed up thinking we had 4, so I purchased 4 corresponding black ones to match with the white ones, kind of have a little contrast for the setup. So I'm missing one. My wife was actually on her way to the store anyway, so I asked her politely to stop by the Dollar Tree again and purchase a 4th white one. Besides that, we also have some zip ties. So this should be pretty quick assembly. I kind of glanced at it, looked at it for a little while at the store, and kind of came up with a plan of attack. So we will be using the collapsible baskets as the back brace, and then we will be connecting all 8 of the pegboards together, and then if we need to, I'm going to use the bottom and top corners and zip tie each corner together to kind of give a little bit more rigidity, so I have a large pegboard. Now you may ask or think, why not just go buy a sheet of pegboard, cut it, and so on and so forth? Well, I can do that, but the beauty of these systems are they're a little thicker, and they already have the spacing I need on the back of them. So if I wanted to use them down the road to make a pegboard without having to cut strips of wood, so on and so forth, I can do that. Plus, with the way these are actually injection molded, they're very rigid, and they have the ability to clip together. So I'm trying to utilize all the benefits that these have. You can 3D print these, but by the time you print this much filament out 8 times, as well as the hooks, you're well over the cost of one spool of filament. Now, if you're not quite in the realm of 3D printing, but you might have some ideas, a single spool, 1 kilogram of filament, runs you roughly around $20+, even for just basic black. Sometimes you can get them on sale, but just on average, plan for around $20 a spool. So all of this would potentially cost me at least 20 bucks or less. So, or well, depending. It could be 20 bucks or more if you had different colors, if you didn't get it on sale. You're spending upwards if you went with like a more higher grade, one a little bit more rigid, one with a PLA plus. You're looking in the $30 to $40 range for one spool, plus the print time. And that was the other thing that kind of held me back immediately from wanting to just jump in and start printing is our event's tomorrow. So it kind of put me on a time crunch. So that's why we're kind of going with the buy it real quick at Dollar Tree and see what we can assemble. So it should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to assemble all 8 pieces, zip tie them together, and then I'm going to see if I can just zip tie these to the back of it for these baskets. That would then leave me roughly this thick of a large board that I can then collapse and open up, set on the table, and I can put either a water bottle or the back stock in these trays to kind of help level it out and keep it upright and a little bit more structural. So we will see what we can come up with. I'm going to do a time lapse of me just zip tying all these together and assembling it real quick, and we'll see how it turns out. Alright, so I paused what I was doing so everyone at home can kind of see what I'm doing here. So in the very corner of where this flexes over and can collapse, I didn't want the zip tie going on the outside on either end because then that would restrict this from making its proper motion. But down in here, I'll actually use the zip tie for you. So down in here is a little plastic clip. Now I thought about zip tying around that, but it's very thin plastic, so my idea was to drill a hole in the corner so that way I could create a larger mass for the zip tie to go over. So this isn't necessarily built for the thought of like hanging tools or anything from it, but if I'm displaying keychains and lighter items, not pottery or something heavy, then I will be able to get away with this working just fine and still collapsing, which is nice. So I am zip tying through the pegboard itself, sacrificing a couple of these holes so that way I can have something that structures and holds it nice and tight. And I'm going off of the outside corners first. I clamped the center together just so these don't try to rock apart, and I'm just using the center line as my together point, and then wherever that lines me up out here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 holes on this outside line. So I am taking the zip tie, going from the face or the outside through the closest hole, up through what I zip tied, and then I'm taking that, getting it close, flexing it over, and then I'm just going through this outside hole right here. And then it goes into this hole over here. And then I take that excess, pull it through, and then just click it into the zip tie itself. So kind of give you a little bit closer on what I'm going through and doing right there. And I will also be doing the same through the center here, but I'm going to try to go through both baskets to tie them together as well as down. So we'll see if I can get that, otherwise I might do a zip tie and a zip tie and just hold them stationary, but then kind of together still. Well, I really do love how this has turned out. And this is just kind of a small smattering of all the different little ones we have and different ones we're going to be printing and playing around with. These little guys right here are called Cali Cats, if I can get it to focus. There we go. Next to all the Cali Dragons, we also have a little cactus. A variety of different ones that'll show up. This is just, like I said, a small smattering that I kind of grabbed. And then I just kind of did the every other for the white versus the black pegs, and I think it turned out really well. I found out that if on these zip ties, which go to the 2 baskets in back for the bottom structure that helps hold it up, if I first zip tie up top, that kind of spaces it a little bit on the bottom. So the basket's actually kind of here, which gives just a little bit of a slant to it, which works awesomely. The other thing is on these ones, if I go a little tighter than the center, it'll actually lightly pull out the sides, and it gives a gentle curve outward, which just like if you were to stand a piece of paper up, it would fall over. But if you curve a piece of paper, it'll stand on its own. So I'm kind of using that principle ever so slightly without making it super obvious that this is slightly bent, and it's still collapsible and pretty well flat. The one downfall of this is it generates a lot of trash and cut off zip ties and everything else. So as far as the zip ties go, this used 28 zip ties. So out of a 100 pack, or actually not even a 100 pack, these are, if it focuses, here we go, 60 pack nylon cable ties, the Tool Bench brand from Dollar Tree. So out of 60 zip ties, you use at least a little less than half. Otherwise you're looking at, if you mess up and have to recut a zip tie and zip tie it again in a different spot, you end up having 28 out of the 60 that you use to do one of these. So there's not too much left in the pack, but still usable. And then if you are going to an event or something like that, it's always good to have zip ties anyway. Duct tape, normal tape, painter's tape. You never know what you end up needing whenever you go to like a convention or something like that, or just an event of any kind, a farmer's market, what have you. So yeah, I am really excited with how this has turned out. And there you have it. I'm really pleased with how this turned out and its portable capability. And I think the only thing that I'm going to have to like add to this is a Ziploc bag or a little Tupperware container of some kind to put all of the pegs in so I don't lose them. But the profile of it is nice and slim, as you saw in the clip before this one. So it lays down pretty relatively flat. You still have that little bit extra kind of in the middle where those two baskets are, but that is still pretty well flat for how it lays down. Give you a little bit of an idea here. So there you have it. I don't even have these fully open. I just kind of prop them back up from the last scene pretty quick. And it holds nice and tight for light stuff like this. You can put some rocks, or you can put wife's purse or whatever you have at the event, or like I said, the backstock can go in those two little crates as just kind of like a little placeholder slash also weight to help keep this from customer pulling really hard on the face of it and having it come forward. So yeah, I'm very well pleased with it, as well as this was a very quick project. It probably took me like 20-30 minutes to actually do the project. Otherwise, the rest of the time was just setting up the camera and moving things around to film this for you. And other than that, the drill bit that I used on there is one that's just a little bit bigger than the actual zip ties you use. So if the zip tie width actually changes a little bit from what you have, you can use a larger drill bit. I just used one that was just ever so slightly, like a 1/16 larger than the zip tie itself, so it could smoothly go in and out, and I'm not having to force the plastic to accept the zip tie and potentially tear, break, or crack the plastic at all, since this is all plastic. But yeah, something that you could throw together, and the total cost of this, all said and done, is I think just under 30. Let me run some quick math on this one just to double check myself. So we're looking at just over $25 for this entire setup. So that's just the zip ties, the panels, and the two baskets in back, as well as the hooks. So all in all, for $25, if you were to buy a display rack like this, have it shipped to your home from Amazon, you could probably find something comparable, but the size of this one, let's double check that too. As for the size, overall we're looking at 3 feet exactly by 17 3/4. And as for the depth of the item, with the baskets on back, it is exactly at 6 inches. So 6 inches deep, 3 feet wide, and 17 3/4 inches tall. So it's a good size without being super large and over encumbering. So if you did just put out some white tables or something like that, or just a folding table in general, and you had this on the table, you could still stand above it and talk to the customer and have your merchandise in front of you. So this is the perfect size. I was worried about making it too tall or too long, so it's still a good distance that I can kind of angle sideways on a table without it overhanging the table. That was one of my concerns. I was originally going to go with just 6 squares, which you can very much do, and just mix these 2 panels all together. But for this size, shape, and dimension, and all the hooks that I wanted to put out, this works out perfectly. So hopefully you enjoyed that little quick segment, quick little put together video, almost like a 5-minute crafts, which I feel like all those 5-minute craft videos, if you actually do the craft, takes a lot longer than 5 minutes, even if you know what you're doing. So anyway, thank you all so very much again. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell if you want notifications each and every time that I put content out. You will get a notification of it, and it helps the channel out greatly, and it gives you the ability to know each and every time that I come out with a video. So thank you all so very much again, and have yourself a wonderful night. Alright, so to give you kind of an idea here for the height of it fully collapsed, it is under 2 inches. It is kind of squishy a little bit, so if you were to be going to an event, this would fit very nicely in a car, and you can just slide it in with everything else. And to open it up, oh here, I'll do a line down. To open it up, you just lift these up, push those in, and then we'll click. There you go. There you have it. And it's all ready to go.